Welcome to another episode of the Know Better, Do Better series. I'm Lauryn Williams, and I'm joined by my fellow financial planning buddy, Chloé Moore, and we are talking money mindset this week. So it is March. It is just a few days before St. Patrick's Day, and I'm excited because I'm headed to Ireland to experience St. Patrick's Day. So it's never been a super duper big holiday of mine, but since I'm going to Ireland, I'm like, why not go at the time of the year when I'll actually get to experience a really big country holiday. I was going to say national holiday, but I don't know if that's the appropriate term. And the one thing I'm thinking about is that it's going to be really cold in Ireland this time of the year. So it's a little bit early to be heading over. All the blogs and things say go a little bit later in the summer. But I'm like, I think it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it to head over at this time. However, I think most of my listeners are in the States. And if you're in the States right now, we are turning the corner into spring. So what does that mean? Time for spring cleaning. And while you're cleaning the closets, cleaning the drawers, cleaning whatever it is that needs to be cleaned, I want you to also consider cleaning your mindset. So we are about 3 months into the year, and New Year's resolutions may have come and gone. First quarter, we are wrapping that up, and you may or may not be on track for your goals. But one of the things I realize that gets in people's way quite a bit is the way that they think about money. So we want to talk today about money mindset, some things you can do to clean up your money mindset, to hit that refresh button, and really give yourself a mindset of abundance and get ready to build some wealth. So Chloé is here, as always, with me. We're going to start it off with trends, taxes, and tea. Chloé, what do you have for us today?
Yeah, so today I have two separate things. The first one is a term that I haven't really heard before, but I saw it kind of pop up a couple of times towards the end of last year, and it's called the friendship wealth gap. So, we always hear about this, wealth gap in our country, or the racial wealth gap, or gender wealth gaps. But this is a friendship wealth gap. So it's basically the economic gap between friends. So, I've been on both sides of this, but you think about, having friendships where maybe, a lot of your friends make more than you, or maybe a lot of your friends make less than you. And that can really affect a lot of aspects of your friendship.
Yeah, I can relate to this quite a bit as well. Even just thinking about like people that you grew up with, so these are lifelong friends and your lives have gone in kind of different directions. And like you said, the incomes just vary. Some people became doctors and lawyers and all kinds of like fancy pants, well-paid profession. And, other people went on to, go to trade school or, start their own business. Or, it kind of runs the gamut, but you have these friendships that like they should transcend everything. But when you kind of meet back up with people after having gone off and, experienced a different kind of life, you get in this place and you're like, oh no, this is a little awkward. I don't know like how to navigate this situation. I have definitely been there before.
Yeah, and it really affects, so many parts of your finances, like from eating out. I know, we've all probably experienced this awkward moment where, you're with a bunch of friends and some people order more things than other people, and it comes time to split the checks. And so it's like, do you split it just based on how many people are there, or do you want to split it up based on what people order? And if you're on the end where you don't make as much, it can be very stressful. And even just buying gifts for people, if you're going in on gifts, if you're attending a wedding, just the idea of attending a wedding could be stressful if you don't have a lot of money, because some people, have fancy weddings, they have parties and they want everyone to dress a certain way, and then you have to buy the gifts so that, or maybe travel for that. So yes, it's just, and going on trips too.
My favorite phase is like life be life.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's not even that you're, not in the same earning range as your friends, but it's that you have other things going on. You're saving up for to have a baby. You're saving up for a big vacation you wanted to go on. And then someone pops up that you really care about. They're like, hey, I'm getting married. And you're like, oh, I can't miss that. But I hadn't really planned for that because I thought your boyfriend was a deadbeat and you guys were going to break up. Like, And so now here you are having to kind of work something else into your finances. And what kind of stands out to me is this idea of like making assumptions. That is the biggest thing I think that has affected me with the friendship wealth gap. So like you said, I've been on the giving and the receiving side of this, and neither feels very good once you kind of like get some perspective around it. But to your point, like the eating out, sometimes people are like, oh, you got it, big baller, I know you're doing well, you're a 4-time Olympian, come on. Like And then you feel the pressure to be like, oh, well, let me just like, maybe you don't have it and let me put my card up here. But it's like everybody went out to eat. Everybody was hungry. Everybody knew it was a restaurant and that there was going to be a cost associated with it. So like, why am I the one picking up the bill? So it definitely gets a little bit awkward trying to figure out how to navigate these things. Yeah, but I like the term friendship wealth gap. I had never really thought of it before.
Yeah, it's an interesting term. And then the second thing was just how your childhood friends can influence your rise to wealth. So there were a couple of studies that were published in the scientific journal. And so they found that it's more likely for children to rise out of poverty if they have friends who are wealthier. So, really just thinking about, how you grew up and the types of, kids that you grew up around at your school or in your neighborhood, just depending on how much wealth they have or if they were, well off, that really does have an influence on your perspective, the connections that you make, the opportunities that you have or that you see. And that can affect how you are able to build wealth.
Yeah, I find this one really interesting because I think sometimes we just go through life and we just kind of like, we are who we are. And kind of until looking at this and reading this article, I hadn't really considered the idea that, the things that I experienced in my childhood are the things that shaped me into who I am. I guess I had considered that, but specifically the fact that I was around friends that were more wealthy than we were. So we were broke and broke. But my parents went out of the way to make sure that I had really cool opportunities, that I was around people who had, like you said, different socioeconomic backgrounds. My godmother was a physician, married to a physician. So I did get exposed to a lot of professional people at a young age. And, now looking back on it, it's like, oh, okay, like that probably did shape the way that I thought about things. And I didn't really realize that, yeah, if I had only lived in the hood, done these sort of things and never come across people who were doing much, much greater than the people directly around me in my neighborhood, maybe I wouldn't have turned out to be the Lauryn that I am. So, yeah, I think this has a lot of validity to it. Even as I think about my clients, some that have not experienced this, that they come and they're earning very well right now, but they did not grow up around anyone that was doing well. And like how important it is to be exposed early in life versus being exposed later in life, even if you do kind of make it out, if you will, or, like you said, transcend whatever your original socioeconomic background was. Sometimes it's a little bit harder to stay ahead of the game or to stay outside of that circle when you haven't had anything to expose you to something different.
Yeah, that's so true. And I have a similar experience too, because I grew up in an area where, the kids didn't have tons of money, but I went to a magnet school. And so I was around different kids than the kids in my neighborhood. And those kids, their parents had a lot more money. And so it was a different experience for me. And there were a lot more things that I was exposed to. And I think that definitely shaped, how I think about money and opportunities that I've had throughout my career.
Yeah, I feel like the moral of this story is that diversity is key. And we talk about diversity in, the form of skin color so frequently now. But diversity of all different types is very, very important for everyone. You want to be around all types of different people so that you can expand your perspective and really create a well-rounded person that is yourself.
Yeah, and I'd say especially too for just for women and people of color, like I think it's so important to see people who are doing well and who are successful and wealthy, because you can't be what you can't see, and so if you see people doing good things, then it's more of a possibility in your mind that you can do that too.
Amen to that. You can't be what you can't see. And as we transition to talking about your money mindset, these are two key aspects. What is it like to transcend that friendship group? And what is it like to change the way that you interact with your friends without getting rid of them? Because just because there might be a friendship wealth gap doesn't mean you gotta ditch these friends, throw them off to the side. And it does not mean that, just because you haven't grown up with this, that, or the third does not mean that you can't have wealth. You absolutely can. And it is all about your mindset. So let's start by just kind of talking about like, what should we consider in order to be able to like even check where our mind is first, and then how to move on or change the things that are, maybe able to be improved about our mindset.
Yeah, so I know Laura and I talked a lot about mindset and just how it affects us and our clients. But really we want to talk today about having a self-assessment. And so there's kind of three key pieces to that, and we'll break those down. The first is where have you been? And then where are you now? And then where are you going? So we both talk to our clients about, these three questions in different ways, and really kind of help people understand, how those experiences that you've had in the past and kind of shape where you are now, and then how your mindset really helps you to shape where you're going to go.
Amen. Well, you first thing you want to do to get your mind right is not just give yourself a pep talk like I am great, I'm wealthy, I am, there's all these affirmations. If you really want to get your mind into a stable place with a great foundation, you first have to unpack some things, and that requires going back into the future and starting really at the very beginning. I always talk to my clients, like you said, about the money messages that they heard growing up. So what sort of things were being said in your household? Money doesn't grow on trees is a popular one. You can't have that. When we go in this store, you better not pick up anything. Right. There's so many different money messages that you might not have realized, but you can spout them off what was happening in your household, what was being said. And they're not all negative. You could have positive money mindsets as well. But you first need to kind of think about what was being said in your household and how that may have affected you and the way that you're choosing to spend your dollars now.
Yeah, and just some of the things to maybe ask yourself, as you're thinking about where have you been and just your experiences growing up. Just think about, what was your first experience with money, or what was your first memory of money? Are there some of those money messages that you heard growing up kind of over and over and over again that you find yourself repeating and saying those things over and over again? And just, do you feel like you've learned certain lessons from your parents, whether they're bad or good? And does that shape how you affect or how you manage your money today?
Yeah. Did you feel kind of rich or poor? Did you always have a roof over your head and, kind of food in your mouth? Those sorts of things. Like thinking about how you actually experienced your childhood now that you're an adult is a great way to kind of go back and kind of assess like, oh, okay, maybe this is why I like going to the mall. It might have been a place where your family went every single Sunday to spend time together, which is a really positive thing. And now you're away from your family and you spend your time at the mall, but you're spending it there by yourself because there's some connection to the mall, but maybe not the good connection, and you're blowing hundreds of dollars or whatever. I'm of course making up this example, but sometimes you can connect the dots between something that happened in your childhood and something that you're presently doing that you may or may not want to change.
Yeah. And another thing to think about too is just your past wins and mistakes. So, two questions that I like to ask clients is, what is something that you're most proud of, financially, or something that you've accomplished that you're really proud of, and then what is your biggest regret, financial regret, or what mistakes do you feel like you've made? So, just kind of understanding some of those things too, that helps to really see, what you've done in the past and kind of what went into those decisions, and how you can maybe change those for the better.
Amen to that. I also ask those questions of my clients, biggest money win and biggest money regret. And it's always so interesting to hear the answers too, because it also frames, this person that you're trying to build a relationship with. So it's like, oh, okay. Like they're like, the worst thing I ever did was buy, these Nikes last week. And it's like, okay, like not a lot of terrible, awful things. The worst thing I did, I could go off of 50 things that cost like six figures. Like oh gosh. Like, but it's important to realize that everybody has different money experiences and what their wins and their losses are, and the big things that they're trying to accomplish are not the same as you. And so to that point, while we think about the future, the past, we also want to think about like our immediate past. So we're talking about like going the way back, childhood, 3 or 4 years old, maybe you have a money memory, 10 or 12 years old, you have a money memory, high school, you have one, college. All of those shaped you as into the adult person you are now. But what about what just happened in the last year? That is your past. And if we're talking about making changes, we need to think about what your most recent behavior was like, so that you can correct, change course, do whatever you need to so that you can get on track and, like you said, change that money mindset. So I would also challenge you to think about, we're in March. What was happening March of last year? What happened in April, May, June, all the way through the rest of the year? And did it shape the way that you did or did not achieve your goals financially? What do you want to replicate about what you did last year so that you can stay on track? And what do you need to ditch because it didn't serve you? And now we're 3 months into the year and you're like, I'm still doing that thing. Let's get rid of it. Let's change our mindset, but let's first think about what we did so that we know what we need to change.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes too, we have people who come to us and maybe they reach out to us, they're looking for help, they want to, get better with their money, and then they go away and they decide not to work with us. And it's almost, inevitable that some person a year later comes back to us and they're just like, I'm in the same place that I was last year and I really should have hired you sooner. But that happens sometimes. It's like we kind of get into our routines, whether they're good or bad, and you really don't want to be stuck in the same place year after year. Like we're trying to grow, we're trying to build wealth and become abundant. And so in order to do that, you really need to assess, what have you been doing and what habits do you need to break in order to get yourself to the next level.
Amen to that. And we open those clients with open arms and say, come on back. It's never too late. Come on. Yeah. It's time to get your mind right now. And I think we also need to be thinking about, like you said, where are you now? So we just talked a little bit about where you've been, what did your past look like? But present day, considering where am I? What exactly is happening in my financial life right now? What's the biggest hurdle that you're trying to overcome? Because everybody is dealing with something and everybody's something is a little bit different. What is stopping you from reaching your money goals right now? What could potentially get in the way of you reaching your money goals? So I think that's one big thing to ask as you think about the right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, sometimes there are things that could be holding you back. It could be you, it could be other people or circumstances that you're in. But yeah, just having an understanding of what those hurdles are, really can help.
Mm-hmm. And just doing that assessment of like where you are overall. So like, is there any money in the bank? Is there no money in the bank? The number of people who don't look and they're just like, let me just swipe and see what happens. Or they swipe their credit card or, whatever the case may be. Like I said, maybe enough money to cover these things, but you're spending without actually any real awareness around what's going on. So the where are you now piece of it is, what are my goals? What are my intentions? What do I actually have right now? And where do I want to go based on where I am? Asking those questions of yourself is a really important piece of it. And I think too, it makes sense to, think about like when it makes sense to be cheap and when it's okay to splurge as you start to think about organizing your finances. Chloé, what do you think about that piece of the puzzle?
Yeah, I mean that can really affect your mindset too. So it's just good to think about, kind of how do you approach money decisions. So when you're buying something, whether it's a service or a product, do you kind of justify things in your head? Do you have like certain dollar amounts that you say, okay, I can't spend more than this much on a pair of jeans or or a vacation or something like that? Do you have those kind of beliefs? Or do you feel like certain things are worth splurging for? But yeah, there are certain things that in our minds we definitely think you can splurge for that are worth it, like experiences, buying your time, spending on your health, self care, things like that. But if you find yourself kind of justifying certain costs or kind of being cheap where maybe you shouldn't be, then you want to rethink that mindset.
Yeah, I love that piece of the puzzle too, because everybody has their own kind of internal number. Like as soon as anything costs $100 to me, I'm like, woo, like $103. What did I buy? Like, let me double check everything that's in my cart. But when it comes to travel, I will just like, okay, it's time to go. Where are we going? Let's go. Like, I didn't even look at how much it costs. I'm just like, that sounds like a fun place to go. So like mentally, there's some sort of block that says like travel, great, go. Anything else that costs like if it's $99, I might be like, ooh, that's a little bit. But what 103, like 1 4, I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. What do we spend $100 on? There's not very many things that I'm gonna spend $100 on. Like I like things that cost like $7 or $9. Like, so where are your mental blocks and where are you, like you said, overall cheap? And then like, when is it okay to splurge? And where are you prone to splurge? So I don't know that it's always okay for me to splurge on travel. I do have a travel budget, but it's not okay for me to just go whenever I want. And I need to kind of stay aware of, hey, just because it's travel and it sounds fun and it's your thing you like to do, you don't get to swipe and worry about it later. You have to worry about it on the front end. You really not worry. You have to plan for it. But you first need to know, like you said, where you are and what's your ability to be able to do the things that you want to do.
But yeah, just taking an inventory of some, just like, with the money messages, like if you can think of some of those things that pop in your head as you're spending money or as you're out, doing different things. That just really helps to kind of frame like your current mindset and see, what things maybe you want to work on.
Amen. I also, we kind of talked about this at the top of the hour, but the company you keep is something you want to consider in the where you are right now. So my 12-week program, we do a whole week just talking about the environment that you're in. So your literal physical environment matters. Is your house messy? Is there stuff all over the place? Is your car messy? But also your work environment, your family environment, your friendship environment, the company you keep matters for where you are right now. And like I said, if you're hanging out with people who are making poor spending decisions, if you're hanging out with people who are, living lavish lifestyles, you're prone to try to do whatever your friend group is doing, and it may or may not be appropriate for you. Whether so that's keeping up with the Joneses, or making bad decisions, or not asking for a raise because everybody else around you is complaining about how broke they are and they're not asking for a raise. You are the company that you keep, and it is incredibly important that you take an inventory of your friends and your family members and the narratives that they're using around you, and decide whether or not you want to continue to be a part of the circle and the conversations that they're having, or if they are impacting your money mindset by constantly talking negative, talking about what they don't have, what they want, but can't get, what they don't earn, who's holding them back from getting it, so on and so forth. Or like I said, maybe you're hanging out with a lot of fancy people. You're like, I'm trying to level up, but you can't run the race with them either. So trying to figure out, like, where's this balance at, and how do I surround myself with people that are going to be positive, motivational, but also meet me where I am? Because I don't want to have to go swipe my credit card at a restaurant I can't afford, just to feel like I need to fit in with you all. I need to be like, hey, this is not my budget. I'm just gonna get an appetizer, and y'all still like me anyway.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to have tough conversations, to set boundaries, because just like when you think about living an active lifestyle or being in good health, it's really a lifestyle decision. And when we're talking about building wealth, we're talking about managing your money. It's really about changing your lifestyle, changing your mindset, so that you have these habits that you put in place to really help you achieve long-term success. So if you have people, if you're on a plan, if you're on a path to doing something good with your money, and you have people that are constantly, trying to disrupt that, you might need to put some boundaries in place and have those conversations.
The other thing I was thinking about as you said that is like the people who hold you back by constantly asking you to borrow money. So you like you said, you have a plan, you have some goals, you have some things you want to accomplish, and then Auntie Nikki shows up and she's like, I can't pay my rent. And you're like, oh my goodness, I can't let my little nieces and nephews be out on the street. And really, what it is that you need to have a talk with Auntie Nikki about her spending habits, as opposed to running to you and asking you to save them. On a regular basis. So you also need to be mindful of, and a lot of people have that pressure of, I'm the one who made it in my family. I need to give back to them. People are expecting this of me. A lot of first generation graduates, first generation that have been in this country. There's a lot of pressure on people to provide for others. But it can also really, really affect the way that you're able to manage your own personal finances.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing to think about too is just how your finances affect your health. There's so many things, we talk about when it makes sense to be cheap and when it's okay to splurge. When it comes to your health, that's a place too where it makes sense to spend the money. Make sure that you are taking care of yourself, that you're eating healthy, that you're exercising, that you're keeping up with all of your regular, exams and doctor's appointments and checkups. That you're taking care of your mental health, and that you're, taking time away for self-care and just things to keep your mind and your emotional state, in a good place.
Yeah, I think of all of those things, but I also think when you say how your finances affect your health, I think about people that are super stressed out right now. And the stress, like it's known to cause cancer, like things like that, not taking care of yourself. So you said buying the cheaper food is something that it could be, but it could also be that like you're not financially organized. And so you feel stressed all the time and you feel physically ill because you carry so much stress, or you're carrying all that stress to like, I gotta make this amount so that I can cover the rent to keep the roof over my kids' head, and also they want to go to Disneyland, and it's just this rigmarole of like I'm just one financial mistake away or one paycheck being laid away from everything falling apart and me looking crazy and everybody knowing that I don't have it all together. And that wears on you. It keeps you up at night. It's not healthy to be carrying that kind of stress around. So, Chloe mentioned your mental health and your physical health and investing in those things, but also just being financially disorganized can cause you to be unhealthy in other ways. Like she mentioned food, you might be buying crappy food, making you unhealthy. And now we got to deal with cardiac issues, blood pressure issues, so on and so forth, because you're trying to buy something that's super cheap, or you got a sweet tooth that's super unhealthy. Like we want you to get the good insurance. We want you to, go out and exercise, get a gym membership if necessary, but also want you to be thinking about how you're actually spending your money and how those things might be affecting your health and how that can lead to a long-term spending problem when a health issue comes up.
Yeah, that's so true. And something else that when you said that, it made me think about another thing. You just for people who do spend, out of control, or their finances are so disorganized that it becomes stressful, it can also put you in a position where you're working in a job that you hate, but you make a lot of money and you have to continue working that job because you've created the situation for yourself where you have this expensive house, expensive cars. You're spending out of control. And so it's like you have to keep up with this lifestyle that you've created for yourself. And so then that causes stress. And you could be working in a toxic environment. You could and you really want to leave, but you can't.
Yeah, that is a good point, Chloe, because so many people get caught on the hamster wheel of I'm well compensated at this place, but like you said, once again, I'm just one paycheck away from it all falling apart because I've built a lifestyle based on this being well compensated, and a layoff or something like that. Like you might not be compensated as well elsewhere. So making sure that you're living within your means, that you have proper savings so that you can throw up your middle finger if you're in a toxic work environment and go find something else. That provides a whole like plethora of mental health and flexibility and just like, stress relief, knowing that you don't have to stay a place that you don't feel comfortable because you feel like you won't have a roof over your head if you don't stay at that place.
Absolutely. And so the next question we talked about, where have you been? Where are you now? So the last question is, where are you going? And so, when you're thinking about, just your money mindset, you really do want to kind of picture yourself long term. What do you want your life to look like long term? How do you envision, yourself? And do you actually want to quit work and kind of fully retire, or do you want to, kind of be able to take breaks or have that flexibility to maybe go down to part time? So just kind of envisioning your life as you would like it to be, and then that helps you to get in the right mindset to take the steps that are necessary.
Yeah. So where have you been? Where are you now? Where are you going? Super duper important to get the past together. Maybe get help with whatever you need from the past. We got some financial therapists we're going to leave in the show notes because there might be some stuff you unpack that you're just like, I need a little help with this. Where am I now? All right. Okay. I know where I am. But where exactly am I trying to go is the third question and a key piece of the puzzle. Do you have goals? Have you set those goals up? And have you done, they always talk about the SMART goals. It's a very simple strategy to make sure that you map out your goals in a way that is going to make sure that they are actually attainable. So what are you thinking about so that you can actually achieve those things that you want for your future?
Yeah, exactly. And so, I know some people a lot of times we ask clients, what do you want your life to look like, or what are some of your long term goals? And they give us these generic, terms like, I want to feel secure or comfortable. And so you really need to unpack that and see, what does that mean? Everybody has their own definition of comfort or security. But in dollar amounts, like how much do you need to have set aside in your emergency fund? So that, if you do have this horrible job that you want to quit, or, you get laid off, or you have some big emergency, what makes you feel comfortable to where you could sleep at night knowing that you have this money set aside? How much do you need to set aside for retirement or any of those long-term targets that you have? So really just kind of putting some numbers to those feelings can really help.
Yes, and this is our our numbers episode. So, I mean, one of the things to be thinking about with that emergency fund is what is the right number for you? If you have expenses that are a little bit higher than your peers, if you have a unstable job, if you have children, I have a friend right now who threw his middle finger up at his job and has 2 years of savings. Like that's one heck of an emergency fund, if I do say so myself. A lot of people after COVID moved to a 1 year emergency fund because of the great resignation, because they didn't want to be stuck at their job, because they started to reevaluate their goals. But your number is yours. So don't just assume that like, well, the internet says 3 months of expenses. I'm more of a 3 to 6 months of your take home pay. So I don't believe in doing expenses at all. And then depending on, like I said, your risk tolerance and what you're trying to accomplish in life, if you want to have like that FU fund, a 1 year emergency fund is not an unrealistic number. And sometimes that's so scary for people to think about. Like, you want me to have a whole year of what I bring home just sitting in the bank doing nothing. And I'm like, yes, absolutely. Its job is not to be invested. It's not to make my money work for me. It is just to provide you with the security. But you first have to decide like what you want for yourself, because some people are okay with just having 3 months. They work in a field where it's really easy to find work in another place. Like if you're an accountant, there is always going to be taxes. No worries there. The medical field is another one where it's usually pretty easy to find something else. But maybe you have a really niche job, or you just want to take a break and find something that is actually right for you, that is a good culture fit, that is in a good climate. You might want to move from the East Coast to the West Coast, or the West Coast to the East Coast. Like that is where your emergency fund really comes into place. I know we harp on this a lot, but as we talk about like where you're going, thinking about like, what do I want for myself, and what do I want the freedom to be able to do is completely different than what your friend might want to do. And you're going to feel really good when you can take your year off and you can travel to Bali for a month of that year, because that's what you wanted to do, is not what your friend wanted to do.
Yeah, for sure. And, just think about too, we have all of these outside influences. We have social media, we do have our friendships, and we have our family, and just every, coworkers, colleagues, everyone kind of telling us, how we should spend money, what we should value, what should be important to us. But you really have to take the time to understand what's important to you, and if it makes sense to you, and if it's something that helps you get to where you want to go, you can block everything else out.
Yes, because there is this concept of like never having enough, and everybody's always talking about like, well, if I could just do this, then, and then they add something else on top of it. Like, okay, now that I did this, but like, what is your enough? Like, you need to really understand this concept of having enough instead of continuously wanting more, because it does prevent you from achieving any long-term progress. So retirement, for example, at some point in your life, you either will not want to work or you physically will not be able to work. And so to keep putting retirement on the back burner is not a good idea. But what your retirement and my retirement look like are going to be entirely different. You absolutely need to decide, what age is that for me? What age do I want the freedom to be able to do these things? What kind of lifestyle can I live? Like, can I have a roommate and sleep on a twin bed? Is that comfortable? Like, I'm okay with that. Like, I'm not planning my retirement in that way, but like, I'm the kind of person that can sleep in a hostel or like go to the Ritz-Carlton. Like, I'm okay in either environment. Some people are like, oh no, I absolutely need, the middle of the road. Like, I can't sleep at something that's worse than the Westin or the Hilton or the whatever place. Like, you've got these standards, you've got this quality of life that you want. Like, you need to build retirement savings that's going to allow you to have that quality of life. And it's not going to be having that quality of life now and later if you can keep piling on to that quality of life. So what does it mean for you to have enough? And when does it like feel good to say, okay, I got a raise, but my life is good. I'm taking 2 vacations. I don't need to up that to 4. I'm going to see my family on a regular basis. All I need to do is save some additional now so that I can do the things that I want. What does it mean to have enough?
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that we talk about a lot too, is lifestyle creep. And we talk about it so much just because it affects so many of our clients. And we see it over and over again where clients, they might double or triple their salary. And there's studies that show that once you make a certain amount of money, like your happiness isn't going to increase magically. And so it's just, you have to think about once you have all of your basics covered, and you have, a couple of extras, and like Lauryn said, if you're able to go on vacations, you're able to buy nice things that you want, and just have, kind of, some freedom and flexibility around your spending. But as your income goes up and up and up, if you're comfortable at a certain point, you can start to really save and build wealth with the additional income that comes in, because we all know when you retire, you're, at that point, you're living on a fixed income. So if you're just accustomed to having your income go up and up and up, and you're just spending as you're spending more as your income goes up, you will never be in a position where you're comfortable retiring. The bonuses don't come in retirement. For my clients, that have equity, the extra equity that comes in a few times a year, that doesn't come in retirement. So, you really have to get accustomed to living on a certain amount of money and being comfortable with that.
Yes, 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 yes. And I mean, I think that's a good segue to these questions that I frequently ask my clients. They call the Kinder question. So there's 3 of them that are really popular. And as we think about this concept of having enough, I think the first one is really relevant to this. I'll paraphrase it, if you will. It's basically like you have enough money to live now and forever. That's just not going to be a worry for you. Describe a life that is complete and yours. Like, you can do whatever you want now that money is not an object. And taking a moment to actually like write that down and say what that answer is in depth, I think is a really important exercise, because it shows you what's important to you. So I got a gajillion, trillion, million, billion dollars. Like, you're probably not going to fly back and forth on a private jet every day. You're probably going to do some of the things that are similar to what you're doing right now. Like, you have your family around you, you're going to eat healthy, you're going to, whatever the case may be. I don't know what your life is, but I think it's important to take a moment and write that down, because you might find that with unlimited funds, your life is already pretty good and you're not going to do a lot of things very different. So now money is just a tool to help you live the life you want, and you don't actually need those unlimited funds to really have the life that is rich and deeply yours already.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'll talk a little bit about the second question and the third question, because they really start to get into, or really start to explain kind of what's most important to you.
Mm-hmm.
So the second question is, this time you visit your doctor and your doctor tells you have 5 to 10 years left to live. So the good news is that you won't feel sick. The bad news is that you have no notice of when you're going to die. So, knowing that you have 5 to 10 years left to live, what would you do in that time that you have left? Like, would you change your life? How would you change your life? And then the third question is, this time, your doctor says that you only have 1 day left to live. And so, just think about, all of these feelings that arise as you know that you only have 1 day remaining. So, what is it that you were not able to accomplish? What were you not able to do? Who were you not able to be?
Yeah, those are some very real questions, like you said. And I love asking these questions of my clients, because it gets them thinking about money in a way that they have never thought about it before. So, 5 to 10 years left. That's not like a little bit of time. A lot of people like, "Ooh, I got to pay these student loans for 5 more years. I'm not going to make it." But when you start talking about you're going to die in 5 to 10 years, it seems like it's a very short period of time. However, it is a good bit of time to be able to make an impact, to kind of live a nice life, and not having unlimited funds. I think that's a key piece of the puzzle. It's like you don't have a lot of time, but you need to do what's important. And money is not the thing that's going to allow you to do what's important. That's what I hear when I hear that question. And that's what I usually get as an answer from my clients. Like, oh crap, I don't have enough. Or they talk about the legacy they want to leave for their family. Like, I better get my finances organized so that my kids are okay if I'm not going to be here 5 to 10 years from now. And there's things they can do immediately that would allow what they have to pass on to their kids, and, things like that would allow them to get financially organized. And then that last one is just like, whoa, game changer. 24 hours. What do I regret? Like, it really puts into perspective, like, what do I want to be living my life for? And this is where I often find with my clients that, like you said, they're in a job that they hate and they need to be able to make some decisions. Like, if I only had 24 hours to live, I would, throw my boss the middle finger. I would kick over his debt. You hear some like, whoa. And it's like, okay, if that's how you feel, that's what you want to do with your 24 hours, like, I think we probably should find you something else to do. Now that we know we have more than we likely have more than 24 hours. So, yeah, I love these questions.
Yeah, it really does help you to understand, what do you need to change? Because, we all have our long-term goals, our lofty things that we want to accomplish, but there are things that we can do right now, and just little actions that we can take that can drastically improve, our quality of life, and just different ways that we're spending our money to really make our lives better.
Amen to that. In a previous episode, we talked about like the levels of financial independence, and I think that's also relevant to the where are you going piece of the puzzle, and a little bit of even like the where are you now puzzle. So we'll list the episode in the show notes. I don't know it off the top of my head, but we did an episode on the various levels of financial independence, and I think it's important to kind of know, like you said, where am I? And then where do I want to go? Where do I want to be on this pyramid of, getting to the top of the pyramid? Or am I like, I'm okay getting to level 5 and I'll feel all right when I get there? What do you think about the levels of financial independence, Chloe, and how, they can help you assess like where you're going?
Yeah, it really does. If you're at a level 2 and maybe you want to get to a level, 5, then that really helps to kind of frame what do you need to do to get to the next level. So, what do you need to go do to get from a 2 to a 3 to a 4, and a 4 to a 5? So that can help you set those actionable goals, and having that end goal in mind really, kind of can help you change the way that you interact with your friends that are asking you to to do last minute trips, or to spend money on things that maybe you don't want to spend money on anymore. It just helps you to kind of make sure that you're staying on track to the goals that you've defined for yourself.
Amen. Hallelujah. There's this song, I think it's the Ghetto Boys. Do you know the Ghetto Boys, Chloe?
Yes.
Yes, they had a song. My mind is playing tricks on me. Dun, dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun. I would play it, but I'm sure there's some like copyright infringement, whatever. So don't let your mind play tricks on you is the thing that I wanted to say. This has been a mindset episode because so often we don't take into account how what we're thinking affects what we're doing and is affecting the overall things that we want to achieve. So don't be afraid to hit the pause button. Take a moment to think about what it is that you need in your life, what you need to remove from your life, and how that can help you achieve your goals. Because we write down this bunch of actions. We're trying to like get to where we need to go by this XYZ time. And our mindset is a little bit good in the sense that we're like, oh, we got stuff to do to get where we want to go. But what if we have all these things we need to do, but we can't actually do them because our mind is getting in the way? Don't let your mind play tricks on you. Deal with whatever it is that is your money mindset and change your money mindset. Clean that stuff up. Like I said, it's spring cleaning time so that you can head where you want to go with confidence. Stick your chest out. Feel really good about it. Walk down the street and like, yes, I know my plan. I want you to feel really good. Since I can't play the song though, we're gonna leave you with our quote like we always do. So what's the money quote for today, Chloe?
Yeah, so today's money quote is the greatest discovery of all time is that a person can change his future by merely changing its attitude. And that's by Oprah Winfrey.
And she got a lot of money, y'all. Just saying. I feel like Oprah had to do some money mindset work because she also started out brokety broke. Um, Another song, started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom. I don't know who sings that one, but y'all know what I'm talking about. But I love this quote. The greatest discovery of all time is that a person can change their future by merely changing their attitude. Um, it's not too late to change your attitude. So if you've been a little grumpy pants, if you've been feeling a little scarcity, if you want to change the overall energy around you to abundance, start speaking into existence, start thinking into existence, and start acting on an abundant lifestyle. You can do it.
Absolutely.
All right. This has been another episode of the Know Better, Do Better series. We still got a couple more coming for you. We still have a couple more coming your way. So we are talking financial planner red flags next, which is going to be a really good episode. We're also going to talk about being a good consumer, and we might have a couple other things coming. If you have something you want us to talk about, don't be afraid to write in. It's podcast@worth-listening.com. Very simple. We are happy to take your suggestions because Chloe and I love talking to each other, but we most importantly love talking to you about things you can do to take control of your finances. So until the next time, enjoy your day. Happy St. Patrick's Day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.